It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us in our South Bend studio to talk a little bit about the Knights of Columbus and how insurance fits in with the work of the Knights of Columbus is Andrew Weiss. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Oh, thank you for having me, Kyle.
So you joined the Knights of Columbus when you were 18, is that correct?
That is right. When I was in college, I joined. I went to Holy Cross College, and I joined at the Notre Dame Council on campus.
So what initially drew you to the Knights of Columbus? What made you want to join?
Well, I grew up around the Knights of Columbus. My father was a field agent in Pennsylvania and then took a promotion to be the general agent in charge of the state of Maine, their insurance program. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather was a Knight. And when I came to college, I turned 18 and I decided to join the Knights of Columbus at Notre Dame and kind of follow in their footsteps.
So you didn't have a choice. They were just...
In some sense, no. It was, it was family and, it was kind of a legacy, I guess you could say. In fact, I even interned as a college student with the insurance program here in Northern Indiana. So that was one of my college internships.
So what is the purpose of the Knights of Columbus?
So the Knights of Columbus was founded in the late 19th century, 1882. And Father Michael J. McGivney, who's a venerable servant of God, his cause for canonization is actually under investigation in the Vatican to this day. Uh-huh. And it was founded in the 1800s as a response to the great need of Catholic families at the time, namely poor Irish immigrants in New Haven, Connecticut, who would often go to work in dangerous conditions. This is before OSHA. This is before workman's comp, things like this.
Sure.
A man would go to work supporting a family of 10, 12, 13 children and either, die or become mangled in a machine or fall ill just to overworking, and leave his family in financial ruin. And at the time in Connecticut, there was a state law that said that if a woman could not prove to the courts that she could financially provide for her children, then the state would take them and they'd put them into orphanages rather than having them run amok on the streets, I guess, was kind of the idea.
Sure.
And Father McGivney had enough widows come to him requesting funds from the church or help. He just didn't have enough to go around. And so he issued a challenge to the men of his parish to found the Knights of Columbus, with its primary mission being to render financial aid to the members and to the beneficiaries of members. So in the beginning, when you joined the Knights of Columbus, you had to take a physical exam in order to be healthy to join. And then your dues were assessed based on your income. Therefore, the more you made, the more you paid, right? And it was promised that as a member of the Knights of Columbus, if you were to die or to fall ill, your family would receive $1,000, which is quite a large sum in the 1880s. And if you were disabled, they would pay you about 50% of your pay for a year. And thereafter, it would be voted on how to proceed after that. And it was just understood that we take care of one another. And what started out in one parish grew quite exponentially. And remember, this is long before Vatican II. Here's Father McGivney, a priest, giving the reins to his lay people, saying, hey, I'm going to give you guys the reins. You're going to take care of one another. And then with the excess time and resources, we'll help kind of grow our church and our parish community. He was way ahead of his time in the sense of they had plays and musicals that they'd put on, reading groups and all of that. I mean, it's quite a community building organization right from the beginning.
So why Columbus? To which Columbus do we knight?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. It's such a hot topic these days. Christopher Columbus. Well, let's start with knights. How about that?
Okay.
So the Knights of Columbus, the two words are pretty meaningful, especially you take yourself to a Catholic in the 1880s. A knight is a defender of the lady of the land, right? He defends with his sword in medieval times in the traditional kind of understanding of the word. And it's a very chivalric and honorable term to be a knight. Now, why Columbus? Well, remember, in the 1880s, these Irish immigrants were looked down upon as the poor, the dirty, if you will, in all kinds of vile ways, discriminated against in many ways, primarily by the kind of Anglo-Saxon Protestant elite of the East Coast at the time. And they looked upon these Irish as if they were coming to this country, which the Protestants felt that they had built, and they were ruining it with their poverty and their large families. And the Knights of Columbus was founded by a bunch of Irish guys. They thought it was quite funny that the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria had landed in the New World long before the Mayflower. And so they called themselves the Knights of Columbus, in kind of a funny way, actually, to kind of jag at their Protestant oppressors, if you will, to say, no, Columbus was here before the Mayflower. So actually, we're not the new ones. You're the new ones.
Gotcha.
So, his heroism was heralded among immigrants in this country as a Catholic to aspire to be. So, yeah.
So what are some of the highlights of the activities or projects that your local chapter has been able to do recently?
Well, as the field agent, I service a number of councils. So in the hierarchy, if you will, of the Knights, the field agent is actually a representative of our supreme office, as we call it, the national office. Therefore, I service a number of councils in the South Bend metropolitan area, Granger, the University of Notre Dame, for example, and different parish councils here. So as far as the highlights, I mean, they're vast and they're wide, right? Because it depends on which one you're looking at. Whether it's a hometown parish council, like here at Little Flower, where our Redeemer Radio studios in South Bend are hosted. They just started a brand new council last year, and they've already been able to put on, dinners for children who are traveling. They've, done a lot with adoration, and they started a men's group that does Bishop Olmsted's Into the Breach. In that, our downtown South Bend Council has had different roundtables at each of the parishes it services. Various men's groups have sprung forth from those in the parishes, helping men grow in their faith. They're often they have these booths where they serve food and things like this, and then the proceeds go to help different charities in our community, in particular the Special Olympics and Corvilla House. Our University of Notre Dame Council purchased, they purchase ultrasound machines, probably one or two a year, and they're very famous for their steak sandwich sales. Our Granger Council this year just started a new thing where they do the pumpkin patch, and the proceeds, went towards their charities that they support. And then, down on the south side, our councils with St. Matthew's Cathedral, St. Jude's, very family oriented. They have Christmas with Santa. They have Easter Bunny over. They did a Super Bowl chili cook-off, a lot of community events, as well as service events. And truly, the list goes on the local level.
We're talking with Andrew Weiss about the Knights of Columbus, and you are part of the insurance, I don't know what to call it, like a division of Knights of Columbus.
Sure.
How does insurance fit into the work of the Knights of Columbus? And you mentioned a little bit of the background of it. How did it evolve from we need to support each other to turn into a little bit more of a traditional insurance program?
Right. So if you look at its origins and its foundings, the men paid dues into a pot, right? Into a pool of money, if you will. Father McGivney was, in a sense, the first field agent, the first insurance agent of the Knights of Columbus. He was the steward of the funds. He left the charitable kind of fraternal social aspects up to the members, and then he handled the finances. He was the one who invested it with the parish's funds, and when someone died, was the one who delivered the death benefit check or the disability check to the families. From that sense, I mean, it just grew. It grew in such popularity that it was kind of like, well, we need to open up another bank account. We need to get it bigger. And it just kind of expanded into where we are today, where we have over $30 billion in assets, over $100 billion of life insurance in force. And we believe that if we were founded by a Catholic priest, that every penny of those assets should be invested strictly according to what the USCCB has laid out in their socially responsible investment practices. And therefore, none of the funds in the Knights of Columbus's arsenal, if you will, are invested in anything that would run contrary to what the church teaches on faith and morals. And we actually are very specific about this, even on our website. The Knights of Columbus does not invest in companies engage in any of the following activities. It would be embryonic stem cell research, human cloning, pornography, abortifacients, contraception, for-profit healthcare, nuclear arms proliferation, and even unjust work and business practices with respect to the treating of workers and the environment. So it's a pretty intentional way of doing our investments. And how it kind of grew forth, I believe it's the Knights of Columbus is a body that breathes with two lungs, the financial and the fraternal. The fraternal is the end that many of you are familiar with, our listeners, right? They see us at fish fries. They see us at the parish. They do many of the things that I just described in my local councils do. The financial is kind of what enables all of that to happen. We don't charge our members very much for dues. They're different in every council, but they're usually not more than $50 a year or so, right? We've given over $185 billion just last year to charity in over 79 million volunteer hours.
Wow.
That's not dues, right? There's something else going on there, right? I mean, insurance companies are wildly profitable, and ours is no different. We're very profitable as well. But what we do with our profits is what sets us apart. We reinvest them back into natural disaster relief, purchasing ultrasound machines for women's care centers and crisis pregnancy clinics, and helping the Christians in the Middle East.
Commercials.
No, you're not going to see us on TV. I mean, raise your hand. It's a radio, so no one can see it, right? But go ahead and raise your hand if you think you've seen a Knights of Columbus commercial on television. You're not going to see it, right? We're not advertising in that sense.
Right. So When you talk about the fraternal and the financial, how do those two fit together? In some ways, it seems like two separate things. Is that the case, or are they really intertwined?
A lot of it comes down to the relationship between the council leaders and their field agents. I take great pride in my relationship with my council leaders, and I would hope that they would appreciate the work that I try to do for them. When it's a collaborative effort, it is the most effective and efficient way of doing things, because in many ways, I am the one who goes and meets with 10, 15, 20 different families a week. I'm kind of the guy who's out there getting the pulse of our membership, seeing how people are feeling about our council and our parish and our community. And it's the council leaders who are organizing a lot of the activities that are going on with the council. When there is a symbiotic relationship between the council leaders and their field agent, inevitably, those councils are far more successful in the amount of volunteer hours, the amount of activity and participation, and in the amount of donations and charitable activity they can do.
So besides the investment piece, where we're not investing in things that are contrary to Catholic teaching and the truth, what other ways would the insurance that you're providing be different from any other insurance company?
The Knights of Columbus has received the highest rating from AM Best and Standard & Poor's for many years. I think AM Best is 40 consecutive years. We're a Fortune 1000 company. The quality of our product and the price point of our product are competitive with all of the top companies that you will see in Super Bowl ads. So many of the companies that people are familiar with, those kind of big familiar brand names, if you will, those companies, when it comes down to it, the only difference between us and them is the Catholic difference. That's why you'll often hear me say, discover the Catholic difference. It's in my church bulletin ads. It's in our Redeemer radio ads, because the Catholic difference is what sets us apart from those other companies. As far as our products go, insurance is insurance, right? So you can choose a more subpar product from other companies online. You look at ratings of companies that can be rated by different companies like Standard & Poor's, AM Best, Fitch, Moody's. These companies, what they do is they're a rating system, and they look at an insurance company and they say, what is your assets to liabilities ratio? What is your percentage of lapse on your policies? People who sign up and then cancel within 5 years. How many billions in assets do you have? How many people are, satisfied with your product? And then also, what is your future projections on your investment portfolio? They go right in and they look at what your portfolio is doing. And then it's very transparent and very public, right? And so the Knights of Columbus, when it comes down to our strength and our reliability and our longevity, we are right up there with every, top tier company. And our price points are there as well. So when it comes to pricing, oftentimes, like my grandfather always said, you get what you pay for. You can pay less for subpar, products elsewhere. But when you're talking about the top companies that are, you see these kind of big names, the more popular and more well-known, respectable ones, our price points are going to be there with all of them. Our products are going to be very similar. The difference is going to be the fact that when you put your money into the Knights of Columbus, you know that it will never be invested in something that's going to run contrary to what you're trying to accomplish with your own personal values.
Right.
And in many ways, is as importantly, the profits that we inevitably will earn off of your premium dollars are being recycled back to help the very church that you're a member of. And, not even Catholic things. We help the Special Olympics, natural disaster relief, the like.
All right. Well, where can people find more information or get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me on my website, andrewweiss.kofc.com, or they can follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn.
All right. Andrew Weiss, KOFC.com. Thank you so much, Andrew, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Kyle.